Hey guys, it's Natalie, and this is the first video in the Reese Witherspoon Book Club Pick Reviews. I'm so excited that we are finally filming this video since I've been talking about it forever. So just to remind you, in each video we will be talking about 4 books. I will be reviewing 2 books, and I will be introducing 2 books, except for this one first video. We're only going to be talking about 3 books in this video. But don't turn off the video, because I know you're going, she lied to us. She said there's going to be 4 books in each video. Technically, I didn't lie. I said once we get these videos rolling, I'll be able to do 4 books. But we're going to have to start off with 3, and you'll see why in just a minute. I read the February book of the month, and I'm going to be introducing the March and April, which I'm going to read both of those in between now and the next time I do this video. And then next month, I will be reviewing those 2 books and introducing the next book of the month pick along with a makeup book. If you weren't aware, I actually went and looked at the 3.5 years that Reese Witherspoon has had her book club and found out I missed 18 months of books, which actually works out because I originally thought we were only going to talk about 2 books in these videos, and now we're going to be talking about 4. And I will let you know right now, I know some of you may be thinking, isn't Reese Witherspoon your favorite actress? Is that going to affect how you rate these books? No, I will be giving you my honest opinion because let's face it, I don't think Reese will be watching these videos. And secondly, I want to tell you guys the truth. I'm not going to sit there and say, if I find a book that I DNF'd, I'm not going to come on here and be like, in my mind thinking I DNF'd it, but yeah, 5 stars, check it out. I mean, seriously, I promised I will give you my honest reaction, and if I think the book was not so great, I will be thinking and saying, Reese, what were you thinking? That was a dud. So let's get started. Let me tell you about the book that I did read, and then I will introduce the 2 new books. So let's get started. The book that I have read and will be reviewing is The Proposal by Jasmine Guillory, or Guillory. I'm not sure, I think it's Guillory. I think that sounds better. And I read this in March. In fact, this was part of my March wrap-up, only in the way that I showed you the book. I didn't tell you the rating or tell you anything about it because I said you had to watch this video. But now that you're here and we're in this video, let's talk about it. So this was a contemporary romance, and I went into it knowing that there was supposed to be a woman who goes to a Dodgers game with her boyfriend, and in her mind, she thinks it's a very casual relationship, and he surprises her with a proposal, a public proposal that's put up on the scoreboard, and she is stunned and shocked and was not expecting this in the least, and has to say no, and of course she has to say no in front of a lot of people. So I thought the book was going to be sort of about that and all the backlash she would receive from, online, social media, or people just, a lot of people will see things and they don't know the whole story, and people are just really, really rude and nasty to her. I thought that was kind of what this book was about, but that's really just like the inciting incident. It's really more about a woman named Nicole, the main character, and yes, that happens to her. She gets publicly proposed to by a man who hasn't even told her that he loves her yet. He doesn't even, when he proposes to her on the scoreboard, he spells her name wrong. Her name is Nicole, but she spells it with a K. So to say that she was not expecting this is an understatement. And the fact that they're in LA and he's trying to be an actor, it makes you wonder if the character was just doing it as kind of like a publicity stunt to get attention or whatnot. But needless to say, she's left there stunned. He and his friends take off. She's just standing there. Meanwhile, Carlos and his sister, and Carlos is the other main character, are sitting about 2 or 3 rows back watching this all unfold, and they're able to see that there are reporters coming from all over, and she's about to have microphones and cameras in her face, and she's definitely not ready for that since she's just standing there stunned. So they're very helpful. They go to her and they're like, come with us, let's get out of here. And they end up going and meeting her friends for drinks, and of course they're all talking about the craziness of it all. And it turns out that Carlos is a doctor and Nicole is a freelance writer, and she decides after this crazy incident she just wants to have a rebound relationship, something fun and light. And Carlos, being a young doctor, his father has passed away and he feels like he kind of has to take over as the man of the family because there's a lot of issues going on in their family. He is very much on the same page as her, like, yeah, let's just have a good time. So I gave this book 3 stars. When I was reading it, I was very much enjoying it. It wasn't a book that I was, oh, I can't wait to get back to it, or or, you know, I was upset when I had to put the bookmark in. But I did enjoy it as I was reading it. If you watched my March wrap-up, I told you guys how I rate books, and that to me, 3 stars is not a bad rating. Oh, and I need to give a warning. It's not a trigger warning because I don't want y'all to think that I think trigger warnings are funny in any way. Those are meant to help people that might be triggered by, you know, sexual assault or depression or a suicide. So this is not a trigger warning, but this is just a warning because I learned the hard way and maybe I can help you out. One of her friends, Nicole's friends in this book, runs a cupcake shop, and it's a setting that they are in often as they discuss the happenings of the story. And I got so hungry from cupcakes by reading this book that one night when my husband was running out, he's like, "Do you want anything?" And I normally say no. I was like, "Yes, I need cupcakes." And he kind of stopped and he was like, "Cupcake? Why do you need a cupcake?" And I said, "Because this book will not stop talking about all the different flavors of cupcakes that this woman is making. And if I don't have a cupcake, I'm not going to get through the night." So I'm telling you, if you do like cupcakes, you might want to buy some cupcakes beforehand so that as you're reading this, if you start thinking about cupcakes or craving cupcakes, that you could just go and get it right then and maybe eat it as you read along to the story. But like I said, the proposal, 3 stars, and I thought it was pretty good. Now, the March and April book picks are very interesting because the March pick is something I've heard about on Booktube and we talk about it all the time. And the April one I had never heard of. So the March book pick is Daisy Jones and the Six. And I was a little bit deceived by this book because when I first got it and first started actually looking at it, I thought maybe it was a real band, but let me tell you why, and let me give you my defense on why I thought maybe this was a real band or maybe it was like a true story. At the very beginning, there's an author's note, and I'm not going to read you the whole thing, but let me just read you the first couple sentences, and then you'll see why I thought perhaps this was a true story. It goes, "This book is an attempt to piece together a clear portrait of how the renowned 1970s rock band Daisy Jones and the Six rose to fame, as well as what led to their abrupt and infamous split while on tour in Chicago in 1972, and that goes, over the course of the last 8 years, I have conducted individual interviews, blah, 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 blah. And then when you look in the book, it's done, look the way it's done, it almost looks like a play, but it's interviews. The whole book is interviews. And I've read books before that have interviews within the book, but I've never read a book where the whole book is interviews. So that should be pretty interesting and make it a very interesting read. Also, if you've already read this book and you liked it, I found out that Reese Witherspoon bought the rights for this and it will be a TV series. It will be on Amazon Prime, so if you have Amazon Prime, that is where you will see this show up. I don't know exactly when it's coming out, but by learning that, I also found out that no, this is completely fictional. The author's note is kind of part of the story. So from what I understand, Daisy Jones is growing up in LA. She is sneaking into nightclubs. She's sleeping with rock and roll stars. She's experimenting with drugs and everything that was going on in that scene in the late 60s and early 70s, but she dreams of being a singer, and she finally gets discovered and matched with a band, and they go on tour. They become huge, and then I guess they kind of fall apart. And I guess the whole point of this book is just to show you, because there were so many rock and roll bands during that era that had those kind of histories or, you know, those kinds of experiences. So I think maybe she's just trying to show us what it might have been like to be in a band during that time. But like I said, I haven't read any of this except for that author's note. But you guys out there who've read it have seemed to really enjoy it. It's the same woman who wrote Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, which I really enjoyed. So I have very high hopes for this book. Now the next book I have not heard of, or had not heard of at all. Like, I haven't seen it on Booktube. I don't think I've seen it on Booktube, or if I saw it on Booktube, I forgot that I saw it on Booktube. But it was a complete new book to me, and it's called The Night Tiger. This is a beautiful cover. So if you're sitting there thinking, wow, that is a beautiful cover, you're right. It is a very beautiful cover. Now this book is set in 1930s Malaysia, and it has 2 main characters who are on 2 different paths. We have Ji Lin. She's an apprentice dressmaker, and she also moonlights as a dancer, and she's doing all of this to pay off her mother's gambling debts. And one night, one of the people she dances with accidentally leaves her this really dark souvenir. This dark souvenir plunges her into this dark adventure that is described as a mirror world of secrets and superstitions, which I don't know what that would be. I guess that sounds interesting. I guess we're gonna find out when we read it. And then our second character is a houseboy named Ren. Now, when I heard what his synopsis was, I'm sorry, I just think it was a little bit funny. It might not be funny in the book. I don't think it's supposed to be funny. But he's a houseboy who promises his master that his master is dying. And so he promises his master that while the master's on the deathbed, that he will find the missing finger, or the severed finger. He's going to find his master's severed finger and bury it with his master within 49 days. And you can tell just by reading the inside that this is super important. If he does not find this severed finger and bury it with the rest of his master in the 49 days, his master will be forced to roam the earth wanderously, aimlessly, forever. So that's, wow, talk about pressure. Now that is pressure. Find my finger. I'm doomed to walk the earth. I can't even imagine. So we have those two stories that obviously at some point are going to connect or cross. And then the town itself, or the village that they're in, has a story going on where there's all these unexplained deaths and rumors of men turning into tigers, which maybe that's why it's called the night tiger. Not sure, but that would make sense to me. So we have three major stories going on here, and how they're going to come together and what they're going to do, I have no clue. I have not even read the first page of this, but I was trying to think, what genre would this be? And I guess this would be a cross between historical fiction and magical realism. So I cannot wait to tell you how this book turns out, and I can't wait to tell you how this book turns out, and I definitely can't wait to review both of them next month and then introduce the next two books that I will be reading as part of this book club. All right, and it's time for my Booktuber Shoutout. My Booktuber Shoutout is The Paper Traveler, which I'm so surprised that I'm just now shouting her out, since she was the only small booktuber I watched before I actually joined Booktube. I am so sorry, guys, but before I joined Booktube, I actually really only watched about 3 booktubers. Isn't that horrible? I feel really bad about that now. And I was looking to see if there was any other people who were about my age doing this, and I found The Paper Traveler, and I remember clicking on the video, and she starts off, and I think she was doing a wrap-up, and she goes, "Let me tell you about my past month," and she was saying something like, "I traveled all over China, and then my twin sister murdered her husband," and I'm watching going, what? Oh my gosh, this poor woman, all this happened to her, and then she's feeling like she needs to share it with her Booktube channel. And then the next thing was something like going into outer space. Now, I'm not saying exactly what she said because I don't remember. I just remember the first couple things she said sort of that sounded like they could happen. So I was thinking, oh, this poor woman. Oh my gosh. But then I realized, oh no, she's just kind of being whimsical and saying that as a paper traveler, she feels like she did all these things, which actually I think is really cool. I know when she did the Owl Magical Readathon, she actually acted in the video like she was at Hogwarts. And I think she was talking to, oh, who was she talking to? She was actually talking to some of the characters from Harry Potter like they were right there. And I thought it was just awesome. And she did a question for my Q&A that I never answered, so I want to do that for her. Her question was, since I'm not a youngster anymore either, I sometimes get criticized, not on Booktube, for liking YA books. Does this ever happen to you? And I thought this was such a great question because no, there's not like a person anywhere who's ever like come at me and criticized me for liking YA books. But a lot of times when I watch newcomers coming on and they're talking about what they'd like to do differently or what they don't like about Booktube that they would like to change, is they talk about how YA is over talked about on Booktube. And when they say that, I worry that there are people that feel the same way who, when they turn on my channel and see, oh, okay, she's not 19. She is sure to be talking about only adult books. And then obviously I start talking about some YA books and I'm wondering if they're going, seriously, you two, you should know better. You should be reading adult books. So sometimes I do feel that pressure that, you know, we get a lot of people put Booktube down for talking about YA so much. And being older, I do kind of sometimes feel that pressure that, you know, I should be bringing the adult books in. But at the same time, I also am at the age where I'm going to do what I want. I know what I like. I'm not going to apologize to my mother anymore that on Sunday nights I watch Keeping Up with the Kardashians. I'm sorry, I love Keeping Up with the Kardashians, and I'm just gonna be me. So, on the other hand, I'm like, YA is a huge genre loved by all ages, and I know that's true because when I went down to Universal Studios to Harry Potter, I saw so many groups of adults walking around that had no children with them, dressed in full costume. So YA is a huge genre, a very popular genre that appeals to all ages. So the answer to that question would be sometimes. Sometimes I kind of feel that pressure, and then sometimes I'm like, you know what? They're either going to like me or not, and I'm not going to pretend that I don't like YA when I love YA. So, but I understand exactly where you're coming from, which is why I found that question so interesting. So that's all I have for this Reese Witherspoon book club review. But next month we will be talking about the 2 books I'm going to read and bringing up 2 new books. I guess we'll be hauling or TBRing, or I just want to say we'll be introducing 2 new books. And after this video, my next video coming up is going to be Give Me 5 or More, and we're going to be talking about historical fiction, something else I hear a lot of people complain about. Oh, nobody's talking about historical fiction. Oh, well, we're going to be talking about historical fiction in my next Give Me 5 or More, so definitely check that one out. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.